Hello guys, good morning everybody. I hope everybody is doing all right, fine. Let's continue our reading of the Constitution of India. Hope everybody has slept well. And pardon for my sore throat. The throat is equality of opportunity in matters of public employment. There shall be equality of opportunity. There should be, there will be, and there has to. Matters relating to employment or appointment to any office under the state. No citizen shall, on grounds only of religion, race, caste, sex, descent, place of birth, residence, or any of them, be ineligible for or discriminated against in respect of any employment or office under the state. Nothing in this article shall prevent Parliament from making any law prescribing in regard to a class of or classes of employment or appointment to an office under the government of or any local or other authority within a state of union territory, any requirement as to residence within that state or union territory prior to such employment or appointment. Nothing in this article shall prevent the state from making any provision for the reservation of appointments. Now, nothing in this article shall prevent the state from making any provision for the reservation of appointments or posts in favor of any backward class of citizens which in the opinion of the state, is not adequately represented in the services which in the opinion of the state is not adequately represented which in the opinion of the state is not adequately represented in the services under the state. Then we have nothing in this article shall prevent from making any provision for reservation. 3. In matters of promotions with consequential seniority to any class or classes of posts in the services under the state in favor of the scheduled castes and the scheduled tribes, which in the opinion of the state are not adequately represented in the services under the state. Nothing in this article shall prevent the state from considering any unfilled vacancies of a year which are reserved for being filled up in that year in accordance with any provision for reservation made under clause 4 or clause 4a as a separate class of vacancies to be filled up in any succeeding year or years, and such class of vacancies shall not be considered together with the vacancies of the year in which they are being filled up for determining the ceiling of 50% reservation on total number of vacancies of that year. Now, nothing in this article shall affect the operation of any law which provides that the incumbent of an office in connection with the affairs of any religious or denominational institution or any member of the government body thereof shall be a person professing a particular religion or belonging to a particular denomination. So abolition of untouchability is abolished, and its practice in any form is forbidden. The enforcement of any disability arising out of untouchability shall be an offense punishable in accordance with law. Abolition of titles, not being a military or academic distinction, shall be conferred by the state. No citizen of India shall accept any title from any state. No person who is not a citizen of India shall, while he holds any office of profit or trust under the state, accept without the consent of the president any title from any foreign state. No person holding any office of profit or trust under the state shall, without the consent of the president, accept any present, emolument, or office to any kind from or under any foreign state. Protection of certain rights regarding freedom of speech, etc., and all citizens shall have the right to freedom of speech and expression, to assemble peaceably and without arms, to form associations or unions or cooperative societies, to move freely throughout the territory of India, to reside and settle in any part of the territory of India, and to practice any profession or to carry on any occupation, trade, or business. Nothing in subclause A of clause 1 shall affect the operation of an existing law or prevent the state from making any law insofar as such law imposes reasonable restrictions on the exercise of the right conferred by the said subclause in the interests of sovereignty and integrity of India. The security of the state, friendly relations with foreign states, the security of the state, friendly relations with the foreign states, public order, decency or morality, or in relation to contempt of court, defamation or incitement to an office of any existing law, insofar as it imposes or prevents the state from making any law imposing in the interests of the sovereignty and integrity of India, or public order, reasonably restrictions on the exercise of the right conferred by the said subclause. Nothing in subclause C of the said clause shall affect the operation of any existing law, insofar as it imposes or prevents the state from making any law imposing in the interests of the sovereignty and integrity of India, of public order or morality, reasonable restrictions on the exercise of the right conferred by the said subclause. Nothing in subclauses D and E of the said clause shall affect the operation of any existing law, insofar as it imposes or prevents the state from making any law imposing reasonable restrictions on the exercise of any of the rights conferred by the said subclauses, either in the interests of the general public or for the protection of the interests of any scheduled tribe, or for the protection of the interests of any scheduled tribe. Protection in respect of conviction. Now, nothing in subclause G of the said clause, nothing in subclause G of the said clause shall affect the operation of any existing law, insofar as it imposes or prevents the state from making any law imposing in the interests of the general public reasonable restrictions on the exercise of the right conferred by the said subclause, and in particular nothing in the said subclause shall affect the operation of any existing law, insofar as it relates to or prevent the state from making any law relating to the professional or technical qualifications necessary for the practicing any profession or carrying on any occupation, trade or business, or the carrying on by the state or by a corporation owned or controlled by the state of any trade, business, industry or service, whether to the exclusion, complete or partial, of citizens or otherwise. Protection in respect of conviction for offences. No person shall be convicted of any offence except for violation of a law in force at the time of the commission of the act charged as an offence, not be subjected to a penalty greater than that which might have been inflicted under the law in force at the time of the commission of the offence. No person shall be prosecuted and punished for the same offence more than once. No person shall be prosecuted and punished for the same offence more than once. protection in respect of conviction for offences. No person shall be convicted of any offence except for violation of a law in force at the time of the commission of the act charged as an offence, nor be subjected to a penalty greater than that which might have been inflicted under the law in force at the time of the commission of the offence. No person shall be prosecuted and punished for the same offence more than once. Compulsory education to all children, the age of 6 to 14 years, in such manner as the state may by law determine protection of life, and personal liberty. No person shall be deprived of his life or personal liberty except according to procedure established by law. Right to education. The state shall provide free and compulsory education to all children of the age of 6 to 14 years in such manner as the state may by law determine. By law determine. Protection against arrest and detention in certain cases. Protection of his life and personal liberty. No person shall be deprived of his life or personal liberty except according to procedure established by law. Right to education. The state shall provide free and compulsory education to all children the age of 6 to 14 years in such manner as the state may by law determine. Protection against arrest and detention. In certain cases. A person who is arrested shall be detained in custody without being informed. No person who is arrested shall be detained in custody or shall be put in custody without being informed as soon as may be for grounds of such arrests for such arrest. nor shall he be denied the right to consult and to be defended by a legal practitioner of his choice. Every person who is arrested and detained in custody shall be produced before the nearest magistrate within a period of 24 hours. Every person who is arrested and detained shall be produced before the nearest magistrate within a period of 24 hours of such arrest, excluding the time necessary for the journey from the place of arrest to the court of the magistrate, and no such. Okay, this time is excluding the time necessary for the journey from the place of arrest to the court of the magistrate, and no such person shall be detained in custody beyond the said period without the authority of a magistrate. Magistrate. Nothing in clause 1 and 2 shall apply to any person who for the time being is an enemy, alien, to any person who is arrested and detained under any law providing for preventive detention. No law providing for preventive detention shall authorize the detention of a person for a longer period than 3 months, unless an advisory board consisting of persons who are or have been or are qualified to be appointed as judges of a high court has reported before the expiration of the said period of the 3 months that there is, in its opinion, sufficient cause for such a detention. Prescribed by any law made by Parliament under subclause B of clause 7, or such person is detained in accordance with the provisions of any law made by Parliament under subclauses A and B of clause 7. When any person detained in pursuance of an order made under any law providing for preventive detention. The authority making the order shall, as soon as may be, also which the order is convenient, shall afford him the earliest opportunity of making presentation against the order. When any person is detained in pursuance of any order made under any law providing for preventive detention, the authority making the order shall, as soon as may be communicated to such person, the grounds on which the order has been made, shall afford him and the earliest opportunity of making a representation against the order. Nothing in clause 5 shall require the authority making any such order as is referred to in that clause to disclose facts which such authority considers to be against the public interest to disclose. Parliament may by law prescribe the provision of substance of a clause for the maximum period for which any person may in any class or classes of maximum period for which any person may be any class or classes of cases be detained under any law providing for preventive detention and the procedure to be followed by an advisory board in any inquiry under sub clauses A of clause 4, right against exploitation, prohibition of tariff in human beings and forced labor, traffic in human beings and beggar and other similar forms of forced labor or prohibited any contravention of this provision shall be an offense punishable in accordance with law. Nothing in this article shall prevent the state from imposing compulsory service for public purposes, and in imposing such services the state shall not make any discrimination on grounds only of religion, race, caste or class or any of them. No prohibition of employment of children in factories, etc. No child below the age of 14 years shall be employed to work in any factory or mine or engaged in any other hazardous employment. freedom to manage religious affairs subject to public order,